Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Fleming, president of the Delaware Bioscience Association. We represent 150 member organizations spanning life science companies of every type and size, businesses that support them, and nonprofit and academic research institutions and universities, all with the shared goal of making Delaware the very best place in the world for bioscientific innovation and investment. A big chunk of the more than 11,000 employees of our member organizations in Delaware actually work in advanced manufacturing, assembly, or production roles. And we recently issued the results of a survey of these employers that underline really both the challenges, but the tremendous opportunity our state has to learn and apply lessons from successful playbooks for recruiting, training, and retaining great employees. And this morning, we have a terrific panel discussion that will help us explore and understand those playbooks, following on the earlier session led by Scott that outlined some of the challenges around worker recruitment and retention. We'll be hearing from 4 leaders, 2 educators and 2 employers who have identified and implemented successful recipes for finding and developing the kind of talent that is going to power this state's economic future. So we're going to kick off by asking each of our panelists to offer a few minutes on who they are, a bit about their roles and their organizations, and then we'll get into a discussion. So let's start with Disa, then we'll go to Kelly, then John, and finally Steve to introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Disa Burden. Thank you so much for having me here today with all these distinguished panelists. I'm super excited. And I'm really excited to tell you about ZipCode because I'm a big fan of ZipCode. It's an out-of-body experience to be there as the executive director. So Zip Code Wilmington is the first nonprofit software coding academy in Delaware, and it was founded to build a diverse and job-ready tech talent pipeline for our region. So we produce entry-level Java software developers and data engineers through an immersive 12-week curriculum designed with our local corporate partners here, the major companies in the financial and technical industries. We offer the 2 tracks, again, based on Java and also Python, R, and SQL. Since 2015, we've trained over 500 people now, creating a tech culture in the area, and we've transformed the lives of our graduates. It's a very competitive admissions process in a rigorous program. Historically, 31% of our graduates have been women. We're proud of that. And 33% are underrepresented minorities in tech. So the average salary of our students when they enroll in our program is around the mid 20,000s a year. And when they leave our program and they're placed with a job with the skill that they just learned, they're making somewhere near the mid 70s. And lately that's been creeping up to close to $80,000 a year upon graduation from ZipCode. Again, it's just a 12-week boot camp, but it's not unusual for us to have folks leaving here with a 6-figure income. So we're changing the lives of our students. This is transformational training that we're providing to them. And we're building that tech talent for those in our industry here.
Great, Kelly.
Yeah, well, it's always hard to follow Disa. So Disa, always great to see you, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion today. So I'm Kelly DeCurtis. I am the Director of Talent and Workforce Development with PHI, which Delmarva Power is a part of. And my workforce development team, we support all the workforce development programs across the territory. And primarily today, I'll be focusing on one that we're super proud of in Delmarva, which is our Path to Success program, which targets high school seniors. We engage with high school seniors that are referred through community-based organizations and really look to mentor them, guide them, tutor them all the way from October of their senior year through June, through their graduation, upskilling them with job-ready skills, employment opportunities and awareness. And at the end of the day, those who decide to graduate and can continue into the workforce are given 100% job offers. So we're really, really excited. And like Disa said, we're really changing the trajectory with making sure that they're following pathways into the middle class, which is a real focus of all of our workforce development programs. So really could talk about this program all day. It's really great. So I'll turn it back to you, Michael.
Fantastic. Let's go to John.
Hey, good morning. John Gooden. I'm the president of M. Davis and Sons. We're roughly about 450 people, 150-year-old family-owned business, located here in Wilmington. Of those 450 people, about 400 or so are into trades. So electricians, plumbers, welders, all of the mechanical and electrical trades. We work across those mechanical and electrical markets, but mainly in the process and manufacturing sectors. So it's a broad market for us. We have a lot of different small programs where we're able to hire in small numbers, but the most successful program that we've run has been working with the high schools around co-ops. We'll bring in a dozen, maybe sometimes as many as 20 co-ops every spring. They work for us full time during the summer, and then they go 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off during their senior year. If they make it to their senior year and they graduate and they're still working with us, which probably about 75% of them get there, then we bring them on full time and they go into the apprenticeship program with the state of Delaware. This runs at nights, so they go to school during the day. So they work during the day, go to school at night. So they're getting paid. It's no cost to them. And if they were paying attention when they were in high school, they can test out of their first year. So it's only a 3-year program at night. Their wages are tied to our journey person's wages. So when they come out of there, they have to be making at least 85% of what a journeyman's making, which is right now somewhere, say in the 30 to 35 bucks an hour ballpark, depending on the trade. So quick, 3-4 years out of high school, you're definitely tied right to that middle class wage. From a metric standpoint, roughly about a third of the company is here and has come out of the vocational school programs. Thank you.
Excellent. Steve.
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be a part of this panel, and thanks for inviting me from New York City. So I'm Stephen Jackson. I'm principal of Aviation High School. Aviation High School is a career and technical education high school, so that's the new name for vocational, of course. This is our 86th year, so our school is completely focused on aviation maintenance. Our school is certified by the Federal Aviation Administration, which they call a Part 147 school. So we are one of many Part 147 schools across the country that train students to be technicians, to work as mechanics in the field. Our students can earn their airframe and or power plant licenses, the 2 license areas you need to work on an aircraft. And they do all this as a New York City public high school student. So most of the Part 147 A&P schools, airframe power plant, are usually colleges and technical schools that are post-secondary. We're one of the few high schools, we're one of the largest schools in this area as far as aviation maintenance technical schools. So our students are New York City public high school students. They join us at the age of 14, which is pretty young to think about becoming joining a school that has a career pathway right to the airlines upon graduation. But it's a wonderful school. We have about 2,000 students, and half of our building is literally aviation maintenance. So we have a hangar on site. We have multiple aircraft and helicopters and so on in the hangar. We have power plant classrooms of engines, you name it, welding, all different aspects of every requirement for the FAA. All the students go through the program. And then we have a 5th-year program for students to earn their second license, because again, there's 2 license areas that the industry partners like JetBlue and Delta, our biggest partners, they would want to see students to leave here with both licenses if they were to be hired directly out of high school. So from our student body, there's a percentage, there's a big mix of where students go. There are students that go right into industry. There are students that go to industry and go to school during the day. There are students that go right into college. There are many students that go to the military, including the academies. And there are students that go into programs in universities and colleges that are engineering, because that's definitely obviously relatable from working on the various systems in an aircraft. So it's basically many opportunities that come out of our school, and we're very proud of what we do. As I said, it's 86 years. Most of our aviation maintenance teachers are graduates of our school. Many of our students are related to somebody that graduated from our school. So it's a really wonderful community where we all work very closely on making sure we provide our best opportunities for our students. And just to be clear, as a New York City public high school, our students can come from any part of New York City, any of the 5 boroughs. So it's not like they live down the block and they join our school. So look forward to talking to you more about our program.
Excellent. Thank you all. I would just a note to our attendees If you have questions, you can plug them into the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen there. Can't make promises that we'll get to them, but I know the chamber team will do their very best to follow up. And if you're interested in connecting with any of our panelists, I'm sure they'll be happy to do that. And I would just, as we go along, invite our panel to jump in, comment, ask questions if anything comes up from one of your colleagues. The one place I'd like to start, it's kind of where Scott Malfitano left off, I think, with his closing remarks, really talking about measurement and measuring what is working. And really, that's the question I'd like to pose to the panel first, which is, how are you measuring what's working, what's not, both in terms of recruitment and retaining your employees, your students, but also how are you applying those tools to you're adjusting your approach to meet changing needs of students and employees, cultural, marketplace needs, technology, right? This world is changing quickly, but you're accountable to boards, taxpayers, and others. So Disa, let's start with you.
Sure, that's a great question. So ZipCode has, since its founding, published its outcomes publicly because as a nonprofit, we want to make sure that the community knows the work that we're doing and that students that are applying to our school are able to make a fully informed decision before they take 3 months off of work to join our immersive program. And also so that the partners know that the work that we're doing is actually quality work and that the talent that they're getting is talent that's ready to add value on day one. So we measure the number of applicants that come in, the applications that are coming in, the number of folks that are coming through. So we know there's a selected program. We take about 10% of those that are applying to our program. But we also see that our graduation rate has been somewhere around the 96th percentile. So folks are that, although it's a very selective process, we're picking the folks that can make it through that rigorous curriculum and then go on to a career in tech. We see that they started out with salaries in the mid 20,000s and they're getting salaries in the beginning, they were getting salaries in the mid 60s. That has been creeping up over the years, and that shows us that our students are in high demand. And what I've seen through COVID was that typically we had about 25% of folks who were socioeconomically vulnerable coming through our program, and those folks were getting scholarships and stipends to attend our program. That number started to drop off over COVID in the last couple of years. So that pointed out to me that the people who need this training the most are not applying or not making it through the program or somewhat hesitant to come to a training program like this, but they're the ones that our community needs to have this transition the most. So I put those numbers together and I presented them to the governor's office, and that's why we received $4.5 million over the next 3 years in order to support having more people who are socioeconomically vulnerable coming through ZipCode and not having to worry about the upfront tuition or the back-end tuition or worry about any of that. And they're also able to get stipends while they're coming through our program. So by tracking those numbers, we were able to see that very quickly and able to turn that around, or at least work towards turning that around.
Why don't we stay with on the education side for a minute? Steve, if you would take a shot at that.
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of things I want to say to that, but I'll try and keep it concise. As a New York City public school that has to meet city, state, federal requirements for education, then you of course have the FAA side of the house as well. We get 5,000 applicants for 500 seats, so we don't have a huge issue as far as recruiting students. We definitely have a very in-demand program, which is great. I think our biggest challenge, as you can imagine, is when students join us, they might not fully understand our program, so it's really selling them on the spot of what aviation maintenance is at the age of 14. And as far as tracking, it's really seeing as they make their way through the program, how well they're doing in their FAA classes, because just to be clear, and it sounds so different from other schools, because it is, we have a graduation rate of between 97 and 99% for state purposes. So it's much easier to graduate from our high school because the kids are really strong and they really work really hard. But obviously, as a high school student, getting your license to work on an aircraft right out of high school is not something that's easy whatsoever, nor should it be, because you're going to be maintaining the aircraft that we all fly on. So it's about a 40 to 45% license attainment rate, which sounds low. And I know that they look terrible on paper, but again, considering that we have 2,000 students and there's a wide range of places that students go upon graduation, we have about 300 students that earn their license each year when you count the fifth year as well. So we do track that. We have a lot of different database systems and so on to track our progress, and we're checking with staff and parents to see how the students are doing. We do a lot of surveys to make sure students are happy with the program and understand where they are in the course of their earning their license, and just making sure that we maintain our vision and mission to train our students to the best of our ability to provide them access to the world of aviation maintenance and all the different aspects of the aircraft industry, or engineering or military or unrelated fields, really. So our biggest challenge as a New York City public school, it's so large, is really tracking students upon graduation. And I won't get into all the details, but the big reason is you don't earn your license right away because there's a multi-step process. Once you complete the program, there's a written test and there's a practical test, and each of these stages take a while. And then, of course, you have to go get a job. So there's a wide range of factors beyond graduation that we're working on tightening that process of tracking the students down. But as a general statement, as far as like the informal aspect of it, as the large majority of the technicians across the tri-state area especially are graduates of our school. So we have a really huge network of graduates across the airlines and the airports. So we are constantly staying and keeping the pulse of what's going on in the airports and how we're doing in their eyes as well. We have partner meetings. We have great relationships with all the airlines, and we use those discussions to make sure that we're staying in alignment with what we need to provide our students.
Excellent. And I should have said it because you were too modest to acknowledge that you do have a good, strong Delaware connection, yes. Even though you're up there in New York, right?
Right.
Your wife is a Hockessin girl, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, my wife grew up in Hockessin, and my father-in-law worked at DuPont.
Excellent.
So I know Delaware well.
So for our employers, John and Kelly, and this question of measuring, adjusting, obviously you're for-profit, entities, companies, where you take resource from one place, it sacrifices investment in another. So you've got to be really effective and smart in terms of your resource allocation around recruiting and the process of identifying, not just in a tough labor market, but folks that you can invest in and that'll stay with your companies. So maybe you can talk a little bit about how do you monitor that and manage. John?
Sure. A couple of things. We've been running this program really probably since the mid '90s. At least this has been kind of a long-term growth platform. And there's been a lot of tweaking over the years. I was jotting some notes down while people were talking. Recently, what's a high school kid? What can he make coming out of high school at McDonald's or Target? It changed radically a few years back, and so when you had to just look at entry-level wages, so that was something that why would they come and start a co-op program, even though you can see that long-term vision versus the immediate gratification of making $17 an hour at Target. Some of the things we found where we had people who were not successful in the not too distant past were around math. Something as simple as fractions. It's not necessarily captured on the state testing. So if you don't get it when it's taught, you can graduate high school, but you still may not be able to add a half and a quarter or an eighth and a 16th. And a tape measure is a real important tool for us. So we put, something as simple as a 2-week math program in, so that they would have those skills. So that when they started the apprenticeship program, they weren't, a step behind their peers. So some of the things that have helped a lot is that career path. They get out of the apprenticeship program, they're working with their tools. Is that the end, or is that really just the first step in a long career? Some people want to stay and that's what they want to do. They want to weld, they want to be an electrician. Others move into supervisory positions, estimating. We have multiple managers, project managers that started here as high school co-ops. One runs our pipe fabrication business, another one runs our ASME code vessel business. And so as long as you're continuing to show that career path and the education, that's key. From a metric, I'd love it if everybody we train stayed with us. That's my ideal goal. It's not realistic. There's just so many opportunities out there. It's not possible to retain everybody. But for me personally, I think it's exciting to see them stay in the industry. Maybe they're working for a customer. Maybe they're working for a competitor. Maybe they start their own business. I think that's from manufacturing trades aspect, if they stay in that industry, then I'm still counting it as a win.
Great. Kelly.
The benefit to being the last person on this question. There's so much great that was said here. And, you know, it's interesting what you just said, though, about being a for-profit company and, you know, that balance. But I think what's really interesting, and John, I'm sure you feel the same way, this is about our community, you know, so we're not necessarily doing this just to create employees, right? You know, that's certainly a benefit, but you know, we're really doing this to impact our communities and communities that we do business in. And that's, you know, when we think of it that way, you know, it takes kind of a different flavor. And one of the things that's probably very similar to DISA's program, although DISA, you're more of a training program, but we don't employ all the people that go through our programs. We have partners that we work with. So we have companies that we work with and sell the vision and mission of this work, and make sure that they're bought in, they're going into the classroom, they're doing some of the training with us, they're doing some of the mentoring. So at the end of the day, we have a number of different employment opportunities. So, you know, that's one of the things that we have to be sure that as we're putting individuals through this program, 100% success or a measurement for us is 100% job offer. And so we need to make sure we're making sure that we have the companies on board to be able to do that. Like other folks have talked about, we do provide a stipend through the program to make sure that, you know, we're supporting individuals going through this and that they can be successful. And at the end, with us and our partner companies, we have a baseline of this will be the minimum that you can pay somebody coming out of this program. So we can quickly see that pathway to success, and again, that pathway to the middle class. And the last thing, and John, you know, you just mentioned it with like the math skills, a big part of our program is improving GPA. So we work with the students the whole first few months that they're with us. We don't really do any career training. We do study skills and how to really just, you know, get through we have testing, the energy industry has testing that you have to go through. How do we make sure people are successful for those programs? So we do a lot with tutoring and helping with GPA and with study skills and math skills, right? Math, you know, really making sure those math skills are out there because it's very important in our job as well. So with all that, and at the back end of all this, most workforce development programs look at 6 months as a measure of success for employment. We track folks for 2 years. And, you know, and I'm going to knock on wood, we have so far met that milestone that people have been still employed over 2 years. And I think once they have 2 years of experience on their resume, that sets them up for future success if they go someplace else.
Kelly, just to stay with you and kind of this theme of community that you mentioned, and following on the earlier panel, hearing from some of the employers and what they're trying to do to get more applications coming in. And I'm curious, you know, with Delmarva and John, what, you know, how are you mobilizing your current workforce? You guys have described obviously great benefits, great cultures. How do you incentivize and encourage and create advocates out of your own colleagues and employees so that they're out there doing the work beyond HR, beyond the official recruiting roles, as evangelists for your companies? Because, you know, we need all this right now. I imagine it's a very competitive labor market.
It is. I'll start off, John. I'd be super curious your answers too. But I mentioned this earlier. We've been really fortunate, and actually, in fact, this afternoon we have another leadership panel within the company. We run these fairly often, where we talk about the workforce development programs. We talk about who's with us, the success, the impact that it's had, you know, these programs for our individuals and quite frankly for their families and their community. So we continue to put that in front of our employees so that they know what's happening. We use our employee resource groups to talk about the programs, to go out and sign up mentors, to sign up folks to do mock interviewing. We do a lot of mock interviewing, resume development. We do, on my talent side of my team, we help individuals think about what a career pathing plan would look like. So we do workshops around that. We do financial literacy. So we, on top of all the job skill training, we're building on all these other skills and awareness opportunities. And we bring in a bunch of our employees to do that. And it's on their time. They do it out as a, I guess, volunteer time, and it really just builds that advocacy within the company. Then they want to see people be successful. I actually just got an email as we were sitting here, and one of our VPs was like, "Hey, I did this mock interview for this guy, and he reached out today, and he wants to post for this job. How do I help him?" Great, that's perfect. So, we're building the internal advocates as we're going along in this program.
Excellent. How about at M. Davis to get your employees out there in their neighborhoods and their families, talking up the great careers that they have, the great reward and the opportunity of joining the company?
One of the words you just used there, I'll start there, is family. We are a family-owned business, and we're big into that. I can't tell you how many people we have here where their sons work here, or their sister works here, or their cousin. And we have one family, I think we have 13 or 14 of them that are related. And interestingly, that cuts the wrong way during COVID, because when one gets it, all of a sudden I'll lose 6 or 8 or 10 employees because they're related and unfortunately gave it to each other. So that was the first time that's been a negative for us. But we strong culture around teaching. About 10, maybe 11 of our employees actually teach in the apprenticeship program. So they work at night for the state, teaching their trade, sharing their knowledge. When we get entry level people coming in and starting, we pair them up. We have a mentoring program, so they have somebody side by side who's not necessarily their supervisor. They might be scared as a young person to ask something that could be perceived as a stupid question. But if they got somebody that they know, that they work with every day, it's a lot of informal learning that goes on there. We're heavily invested in the schools, people who graduate from Del Castle, Hodson, Salem, Cecil. I mean, it's not just Delaware. It's definitely a regional issue for us. And we try to make sure that the people who are going back to be on the advisory panels, that are going back to talk to the students, are people that graduated from that program. And one of the most effective things we've had around marketing for what we do is during National Manufacturing Week, during National Apprenticeship Week, bringing the programs, bringing the actual students and teachers through our manufacturing sites for tours. And then they see somebody that graduated 2 or 3 or 4 years ahead of them from their school working out there, and they get a chance to talk with them and interact. And that's probably, out of everything we do, the most valuable thing. I look forward to those tours and seeing them get excited when they come off the buses and get a feel for what they've been learning in the classroom is going to look like on the floor.
That's
Thanks.
great. Disa, a couple questions in the chat. A lot of interest in zip code. I want to kind of riff on those questions to the issue of mid-career talent and people that have already had a few years in the workplace. You guys have had tremendous success.
Yes.
With individuals who themselves have obviously recognized and made the decision that they want to do something different. We'd just love to hear your views on how it is that you guys have been successful. What have you learned through that process? And then invite our employers to discuss, what they may be doing in terms of that space as well.
Right. Yeah. It's a surprise to folks when they first hear about zip code, because that our average age is 35. Because people think, oh, software coding, that's something my nephew might like, my niece might like that. But we are really focusing on folks that are making a career transition or looking at moving away from juggling multiple jobs and getting into a long-term, sustainable, good-paying career. So average age is 35. Our corporate employers, our corporate partners like employing folks who have already been out in the workforce. They know how to work in a team in a corporate environment, to show up at work, to get there. They have all of those experiences already down. So it's really just learning the technology, and then it's plug and play. And so these are folks who may have a background. Let's say they had 5 years in marketing. Let's say they worked 5 years at an Ann Taylor, and they've got great customer service capabilities. So you layer on the technology, that skill, with that customer service, with that accounting background, with that marketing background. And now they're, a super developer, if you want to think of it that way. So zip coders are folks that are making career transitions, although it's to answer the questions. To get into zip code, you just need to have a high school diploma and be 18 years old. So we have folks 18 to 60 who come to zip code. They're all coming in. There's no income restriction or anything like that. Our application process is intended to lower the barriers of entry, make it accessible and affordable to many so that they can come in. And that's how we're getting the diversity numbers that we have. In the past, we haven't done a lot of marketing because the word of mouth was so strong. People couldn't believe the program. I mean, I hear it all the time that people thought about applying, but they said it just can't be real. But then they met someone who had gone through ZipCode and had actually had a job and was working, you know, at JP Morgan Chase or at M&T Bank or at Comcast. And they said, well, if that person can do it, I can do it. And so that's how people were coming in. Now, coming out of COVID, that's a little bit different. I am marketing more. But I think that where we're focusing our efforts and where we're finding people coming in is really through word of mouth. It's through, we have commercials now, we have some ads out in the Philadelphia airport, but we're really just trying to reach out to folks who are looking to move up from that a place where they're not necessarily happy. This is not a long-term thing, or maybe there's an end of the runway on their career and they want to move into something else.
Excellent. Any thoughts, John or Kelly, in terms of that kind of that target population for your company's recruiting, folks who are looking to make a career move, maybe don't have the exact skills that you're looking for, but they have the ability to be trained?
Yeah, so we have a program right now down in the Eastern Shore region, and soon to be coming in the other in other regions, but I'll leave that for now. That's going to replicate programs we have in our other utilities, where it is targeting more that you know, adult work ready individual who's been underemployed, you know, from, again, really targeting our under-resourced communities. We've had tremendous success with that program in other areas, and with the one that we have down in the Eastern Shore region, and it really does target individuals. Again, we find individuals through our community-based organization partners to go through these programs, get the job skills, and you know, it's showing opportunity and showing career path that I think has really been successful for us. You know, so if individuals have the desire to want to come in and learn, and have the desire to you know, want to you know, take the leap of faith, I think, Disa, that's a lot of your jobs too. It's that, you know, we're going to teach you these skills, because it can be daunting. You know, oh, we'll go fix some electric wires. That sounds pretty daunting. But you know, we show them the different options that are out there with our hiring partners. And if they're willing to come in and participate with us and be engaged and you know, show up on time and do all the things, we're willing to train them. And it's been really, really successful for us. I think we get tremendous buy-in, because they see, you know, the result at the end, again, getting that job offer and finding that employability. I think that's what gives the proof. And Disa, I'm sure you saw the same thing. We had to build that reputation, because it sounds a little too good to be true sometimes. So we've definitely been getting more referrals now, that word of mouth, you know, employees that have come to us or come to our partners, and then referring them back to our program. And we've seen huge success from that. That's great.
Steve, as you said before, there probably can't be a program that is closer connected to employers than yours. Like there's no room for any gap there in terms of, you know, what those skills exactly need to be in the training. And here we have two great, you know, trainers, educators, two fantastic employers. But it really is, it's that connection that I think, you know, we have to keep getting better at and accelerating that improvement. And so interested in your thoughts. More broadly, this conference is about manufacturing and employees in the manufacturing world. And so really interested in your perspective about how you know, what you've learned in terms of your engagement with employers, your partnership with employers, and how those lessons might be applied more broadly.
That's a great question. So it's a little bit even more unique for us, because we have the situation where we're definitely tied to the industry, as you said. And of course, our students can go into the manufacturing side of aviation maintenance. Mostly they go into the maintenance, because the airlines here are all for commercial and cargo out of JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark. But the interesting issue is, and this is changing for the better for us in the near future, we get a lot of feedback from our partners. We, like I said, Delta, JetBlue, American Airlines, United. They give us feedback regularly about our students, and we have internships and mentoring opportunities with all of our partners. But at the same time, our curriculum is dictated by the Federal Aviation Administration. And we have to follow that first, make sure they can get their certifications. And then, of course, do as best we can to modify where we can, meaning that I don't have a lot of leeway over changes, since whatever the FAA requires, we have to follow their requirements, and then do our best to match the local needs of, let's say, Delta or JetBlue, because that's different than, let's say, Embraer in Nashville or Florida or so on, because the manufacturing have a different need than the commercial airlines. So how we do it is we stay in constant contact with our airline partners. Again, we're very fortunate that many of these people that I'm referencing are graduates of our school, so they know the school really well, and then we can just pick up a phone and talk to them right now if there was a concern or question or just some overall, brainstorming topic. But the good news for schools like ours is there have been changes to the FAA regulations that are giving a little bit more leeway of design. It sounds more like designing towards what your local area will be needing. So if your area has more manufacturing, the regulations are not going to be so strict, where you design and then the local FAA FSDOs will sign off on whether your curriculum is approved or not. So that's going to help us transition to more of the needs of our local employers. So if anyone's out there thinking about that I know that aviation is a definite big area in Delaware. That's a future growth opportunity for sure, is that we can align our training programs to the local needs, because that's really unique. Like I said, if you're going to do heavy check maintenance, you're mostly going to work in the middle of the country. If you're going to do manufacturing, it depends on it could be Connecticut with Pratt & Whitney or other parts of this country that have different needs. So really, that's the challenge for a school like ours, is that until those regulations get a change officially, we got to do exactly what everyone else does across the country, regardless of what our partners request, if that makes any sense. Like, for example, a big request is always avionics, right? The computer-based side of the aircraft, just like with cars. It's not a huge portion of the FAA requirements. So now that's slowly changing, and that helps us with the alignment with our local hiring needs as well.
Excellent. Disa and Steve made a really interesting point. Well, first of all, you guys, you've been since the program launched, you've had really great relationships with world-class employers and a great pipeline into those organizations. So kind of two questions, one that are related. What's your feedback loop with those employers in terms of, the quality, the skills of your graduates, but also the point Steve made that a lot of graduates are going to work for graduates of the program and have you institutionalized that so that you've got really a candid kind of pipeline of feedback into your organization about, okay, here's what it's been like for me the last couple of years. Here's what I wish we'd done differently, or I've been better prepared, maybe around softer skills, more professional skills that they wish that could have complemented the technical training.
Absolutely, that feedback loop is happening every day. So ZipCode was founded to support the economy of the region by building this tech talent for these employers. We started with the end in mind. We met with the employers first to develop our curriculum. So unlike Steve, we had the ability to have the employers tell us what that job ready curriculum looks like, what that value add day one looks like. And we were able to build a curriculum based on that. And every year we have a meeting with all of the corporate partners, and they tell us, do you want a little bit more of this? Do you want a little bit less of that? So we're more flexible because we don't have that regulatory overlay in what we do. So we have that annual review with them. With each cohort, we're reaching out to them to talk about what they thought about the interview process, the candidates that they're seeing. And then every day, but pre-COVID, every day around 5:30, graduates would start filtering into the classroom to meet the new folks and talk to them and come into my office or my predecessor's office and chat with us about the things that they were seeing, the things that they were being asked to do, challenges they were facing, things that they thought could help. So that feedback loop has continued. Right now we're doing things virtually, but we're able to see, just even with the interaction with our alumni, we saw that that our new folks needed help with video training. So we added that to the curriculum. So there are things that we're doing to tweak all the time. But I did also want to add before we end today that the same process that put ZipCode in place, Ben DuPont, Jim Stewart, Porter Shutt, when they sat down over a dinner table and lamented over the fact that the banks were poaching the same software developer and there were all these jobs that were unfilled and all these people in Wilmington that needed jobs. Between that dinner and starting ZipCode was about a year and $1.5 million of investment. We put, $22 million back, just approximately $22 million back into the community from the work that we've done at year 6, and we're moving into year 7. And so now we're taking another look at the manufacturing industry. So I just want you to know, everyone can know, we're doing a listening tour of the manufacturing industry to see if there's an opportunity for something like a Zip Build to help in that sector as well. And if there are other sectors, if there are other industries where we can put a short-term immersive training program together that puts out high quality talent, we'd love to be able to do that in other industries because we think this is replicable. And it's because we don't, ZipCode was quick in its ability to come in because we didn't have the regulatory framework, but other industries may. So that's something that Steve has to deal with that we may have to deal with in the future with other industries.
And I know we're wrapping up, but just to add, obviously we're different than ZipCode, and there's a lot of similarities with what Disa said. Just an added little feature of our informal process is many of our aviation maintenance teachers are also working in the field too. So they're constantly at the airports working in these jobs, talking to their students during the day. And yeah, they provide a lot of feedback right there on the spot of what this is going to look like, in the next few years when you actually go out there. So it's highly informal in that sense because we're so closely tied to the airline industry in the area. And that's a big help because that helps us to keep in alignment with what's going on outside out in the industry.
That's fantastic. Very energizing, very exciting to hear that, Disa. Kelly and John, we have 30 seconds. If you have any closing remarks you'd like to share before we wrap up.
Well, just to piggyback off of what Disa just said, we certainly we think we have a winning plan. Our curriculum has worked in various ways, and certainly if anybody wanted to reach out and just get more information, because I think on top of our job training, it's all the other components that go around that I think that make this program really successful. And Disa, I see you nodding your head, and I feel like Disa and I could just partner up and create this fabulous thing. But but in all seriousness, if anybody would ever want to reach out and just have more of a conversation, I'm always willing to have that conversation, because again, it's not about what we do for Delmarva Power, it's what we do for our communities.
Well said. John?
I was just going to say to Disa, keep me in mind for that Zip Build conversation. Always looking for a new opportunity to attract people to the trades. And thanks to everybody. It was a great conversation today.
You're on my list of people, John. Don't worry, I'm coming around to see you.
Really, really great conversation. Thank you all for your insights, your time. On behalf of Delaware Bio, we too, 4 kind of key priorities this year for us in moving forward. One is workforce development. And so we actually are going to be hopefully having something to say about how we're going to be resourcing the space. And so Disa and others, we really look forward to working together with you and learning from you and making an impact together for the state. So with that, thank you very much on behalf of the State Chamber of Commerce for an excellent discussion. And I think now it's time for some networking before the next presentation. So thanks all. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.